So Tim, how did Christian faith become a part of your life?
I was really blessed to be born into a Christian home. My folks are Christians, and back then I came home from the hospital and went to church that very first Sunday. And went every Sunday, but back then we really didn't have much of a kids program or youth program. So all I did for my Christian faith was go to church on Sunday. And so I didn't know a lot. So I leave, finish school, start working in the insurance industry, and I'm at lunch one day with a mate of mine, and he's clearly getting interested about spiritual things. And he asked the question, so what's this Christian thing about? And he's clearly really serious, he clearly wants to know, and I'm going, I have no idea how to answer this question. And so I'm going, this is a very, very important question, I've got to answer it properly. So there's God, it's about God. And I'm scrambling around there's Jesus, it's God and Jesus, you've got to believe in God and Jesus, and the Bible. God, Jesus, and the Bible. I think that's a Trinity. Anyway, I'm just scrambling an answer, and as I'm trying, I've just, in my head, I'm going, you're an idiot. You've been going to church for 18 years of your life, and you don't know what Christianity is about. And anyway, I did my best there, and I said, I'll get back to you. And I go back to work, and I ring the new assistant minister at my church, Chris Edwards, who's now the bishop of the Northern region. So, Chris, what do I believe? I don't know what I believe. And he just started at our church at Anglican, and there was about a dozen young guys and girls my age, in that late teens, early 20s, who we'd been brought up in that church, but we'd suffered because there was none of the good kids stuff, good youth program, Bible studies. We hadn't done any of that. So he's the one who got us together and started reading the Bible with us, and then doing a bit of training, how to share the gospel, how to defend the gospel. And within a year, we were all completely transformed. I reckon we were probably all Christian, just like this, just enough to be saved. Jesus saves me, yes, I believe that, but no depth. But within that year, it all changed, and the faith was strong, and we were all inviting friends to church, whereas before we wouldn't talk about it because we didn't know how to answer the question, what do you believe as a Christian? Yeah. So that's it all changed. So
why ministry?
Well, once that started, it didn't stop, and so I loved trying to drag mates along to church. I loved talking about Jesus. That crew, we then started a youth group at Anglican. There was no youth prior to that. We started it, and it took off, and we loved it. And then this, I blame Chris Edwards for this. He said, you should think about ministry. And I've gone, well, that's for other people. These ministers would just come to our church, and I didn't know how they got there or the background. That was for other people. But he planted the seed. And then my wife, Anna, and I got married, and he took us to a Moore College open day, and at the end of it, we loved it. And we're driving home with him in the car, and he goes, oh, what do you think? And we've gone, I think we should go. I remember sitting in the back seat of his car, I think we're going to go to Moore College. And that's how it started from there.
Now, another big step in your life was, it's one thing to be an Anglican minister, which you are, but then to put your hand up to be a chaplain. Why be a chaplain in the armed forces?
Well, God, I think, had been working on that for years before it happened. So at school, I was in the Army Cadets, loved that. Finish school, and a good mate of my dad's is a sergeant in an Army Reserve Unit, 1 Commando company. And I was fit, doing a lot of triathlons and rugby, and he goes, you should join up, you'd love it. And so I joined up, and it was a lot of fun. I only did that for 1 year because my Christian life was really ramping up, and that sort of gets in the way of weekend ministries and stuff. So I eventually stopped that. But anyway, the seed was there. Start at Moore College, and then the bishop to the Australian Defence Force, there's an Anglican bishop of the Australian Defence Force, who would have thought? He comes to the college, does a bit of a promo thing on the need for good chaplains, and again, the seed is sown there. But you've got to have done 3 years in parish life, in a church. So you've got some good pastoral skills. Yep. Anyway, providence of God. Finish college and end up at Liverpool Anglican Church. And there's a couple of young engineering captains there that are based out of Holsworthy Barracks. And they're very good evangelists. I start doing some evangelism explained, Christianity explained courses on the base. And they start going, you should think about army chaplaincy. And anyway, they dobbed me into the new bishop to the Defence Force, who rings me up, and we start chatting. And I wasn't interested in going to Townsville or Darwin, but he said, there's an opening in Holsworthy with the Airborne Battalion. Do you want it? And I've gone, Chadwana, yep, we'll take that. Because that way we could stay at our church, Liverpool Anglican, and marry up the ministry at Holsworthy a whole lot better.
Yeah. What do you think is the role of an army chaplain? Because for a lot of people, they would think it's kind of a bit odd that there's sort of a religious leader is working in the army. So what is the role of a chaplain?
The chaplain, he is in charge of the spiritual morale of the unit, the battalion. You know, you have psychologists, they do their thing, social workers, they do their thing, but and the doctors, they do their thing. So you've got these specialist officers, right? We are called SSOs, Specialist Service Officers, and the chaplain's specialty is the spiritual side of life. And historically, chaplains have been in Defence Forces for thousands of years, because when you're about to get killed or about to kill someone, when you're going to war, you think, what's going to happen next? What does God think of this? Me killing people, and I could die here. And you can't not think about the big things in life. And so chaplains have that really privileged role of talking about the big things of life to the soldiers and sailors.
Michael Gladwin wrote a book called Captains of the Soul about chaplains. Is that a fair description?
It's a great book and a great description. Yeah, Captain of the Soul, I love it. Yeah, it's really good, really clever.
The army is very hierarchical.
Yes.
Where does chaplaincy fit in the hierarchy?
Oh, it's a brilliant role, because you are the only officer who can talk to any level. You can go to anyone and speak to them. You have that freedom that nobody else does in a unit. So it's a very privileged role, and brings great responsibility, because they trust you to talk to anyone at any level about anything. So the CO, the commanding officer, down to the newest private soldier into the battalion, can come to you to talk to you about anything. And so it's a great position. Yeah.
So you turn up at Holsworthy. What's the reaction like?
Well, they're always a bit nervous, because some chaplains are very good and some aren't so good, and you've got the whole range. So they're just waiting to see what you're going to be like. So I get there and I start straight away doing as much as I can with the soldiers. So you have PT, physical training, every morning from sort of 7:30 for at least an hour and a half. And so I jump into that with the guys, go to different platoons and try and get to know as many guys as possible. And then in my third week in the battalion, the CO rings me up and he says, "Oh, Padre," this is how we talk, "Padre. The next, I was panelled on for the parachute course in July. He was going to give me 6 months to get a feel for the place. Anyway, he goes, "Padre, an opening's opened up in the next para course next week. Are you good to go?" "Yes, sir." That's the only answer to the CO is "yes, sir." And so you've got to be pretty fit. There's a little entrance test you've got to do. So you've got to be able to do 60 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 10 chin-ups, and a 2.5k run in a set time.
I was going to say in a set time? I mean, give me 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, set time, pretty quick.
Yep.
And you do that, and then if you can do all those back to back, then you're on the course. So anyway, we want to make sure my fitness was up. I said, "Yep, I'm good to go." So I go down. The para course, it's 3 weeks at Nowra, and it's 3 weeks in hell. It's the toughest 3 weeks of my life. And but there's about 70 guys on the course. Most of them are from 3RAR, the 3rd Battalion that I'm a part of. Some are Special Forces guys that haven't done the course yet. But you do that course and you are best mates for life with that crew. You know, you will look after each other, you'll lie for each other, you'll die for each other, you'll kill for each other. That's how tight it sort of, that's the sort of phrase. And so you get back to the battalion with those guys. There's a special parade when you've come back, and those that have passed, you get your wings, and that's a massive thing. And you're then a part of the airborne brotherhood for life, because you know how terrifying it is to jump out of aircraft. You know how full on that course is. So you really respect anyone who's passed that course. And it just brings a real brotherhood, the camaraderie in the airborne battalions is fantastic.
Yeah. It's an interesting balance, isn't it? Because you need, as a Padre, to connect with these men. but you can't be their friends. Is that right? Like, what's the line there? How do you work that out?
Yeah, that's correct. You can be friends, but you don't want to get into the wild side of living. That really messes with your ability to help them and for them to listen to any Christian message you're going to share. So, there are dining in nights, for example, that you get invited to because you're the padre, and at a certain time after the 3 courses and the toasts are on, you're hanging around for a little bit. Then when it starts to deteriorate, time to go.
Yeah.
So they appreciate that you're there, and they appreciate that you don't preach moralism when they're on the cans and stuff. Yeah.
When you were at Holsworthy, were the soldiers open to Christian things?
Yeah, they were. The pressure cooker environment that exists in these battalions is incredible, and you can't not think about the big things in life. So when you join 3RAR, you do your para course down at Nowra. That's full on. And when I was there, I was the most popular person down there because people want to pray. It's terrifying. I've never prayed more than I did on that para course. Dear God, and it's a simple prayer. Dear God, make sure I don't die today. Look after me. But people instinctively, dear God, help as you're going out that door. Everyone's a believer, and dear God, help me here. Like particularly your first step. You do 7 jumps to qualify as a paratrooper, and you're praying hard, and you feel it down there. And the other thing is, of course, you're the padre, you're the God guy, and I've been talking about God and stuff. They know I'm not shy, and I'm not an idiot. I say I've got some good answers to some of their questions, so they're getting interested in it. When there's the God guy down there, it's like they've got permission to talk about it. If there's no God guy there, everyone's got to be tough and not talk about it. But it's there in their heads, you can see it. And so, but when the padre's there and he's connecting with them, and they're starting to ask questions, and the answers, they like the sound of the answers and stuff. Just stuff comes. And then you come back to the battalion, and picture this, you're 18, 19 years of age, and then you say, the legal officer brings you in and says, listen, we're going to do your will now. Time to write your will. Where do you want all your stuff to go when you die? You're sort of going, well, what do you mean I need a will? You could die here, mate. And so you're jumping out of planes. That's terrifying. You're writing your will. And you're a trained killer. And then the operational tempo is very high back then when we were there, Afghanistan, Iraq, East Timor, Solomons. A lot of people are being killed. You're avoiding being killed. Some of our guys are being killed. That's a pressure cooker environment, and you're just a lot of guys. I had every day I'm having really deep, serious conversations about the eternal things. And John Dixon's book, Simply Christianity, I gave 300 of those out in my 3 years at the battalion. And I would give those to guys that were really interested and wanted to take it further. And that's how much spiritual work was going on there, and how alive they were.